Started the feed just now, live from the lab. NFL Free Agency Talk with USA Today Media Group insider Dujunnea Bland Ep.88 on in a second. Waiting for Robbie to drop this question that he has waiting for us.
Sounds good. So I know that we've gone back and forth, with Stuart Cravens. He retired for a year, took a year away from it. At the time, we thought if you're I know what you said a year ago, if your mind's already retired, you should just stay retired. He's applied, sort of breaking news just a couple hours ago, that he's applied for reinstatement in the NFL. I want to get your quick take on that.
I did see that report come through. Like you said, I really don't have no interest in having this dude on the field. If they could possibly trade him somewhere, I don't have a problem with that. I like the safeties that they drafted. I like the player what we had last year. We had another young playmaker that wants to be on the field. It doesn't need a whole year to decide if he wants to play football for his second time in his short career going back to college. I'm really pretty much, I'm on the record for the way I feel about it. Once you already start thinking about retirement, you're already retired. You could ask any NFL player that, and they feel the same way. What about you, Dujunnea? How do you feel about it? First of all, good evening. How you doing tonight, sir? And how do you feel about this recent Stuart Cravens development?
I think everybody knew that eventually, once he felt like, I guess he was ready to come back, that he was going to do that. The answer is no for me. Personally, I don't like to ever call a guy a bum, but he's not anything comparable to what we have, what the Redskins have in that secondary. And again, you have to test the dynamic of the locker room, and I'm not sure too many guys are going to be okay with it. And I'll be first to tell you, I'm not one to knock or make fun of or make light of someone's mental state and what they're going through mentally. But if it's not that, and you're using that as an excuse or a ride or whatever the case may be to try to push your narrative on why you left, and that's really not the reason, then you should be ashamed of yourself. But I really don't see a need for him to be here. If they can move him, get something for him, yeah, I know they spent high draft pick on that, but you know what, man? At the end of the day, it's not even about that. It's about guys who want to be here, want to be in the building, want to go out and work every day and work hard every day, who are grinding and hungry for a roster spot. He's got a long way to go. That's fine. He applied, but he's got a long way to go. But I do not see him here in Washington. And if it was left up to me, that answer would be absolutely positively no.
Totally agree. But let's get to more relevant, pressing news that actually, has going to have an impact on the field. I was reading your article that you posted on SportsOTHP podcast page about 3 possible free agents the Redskins should be looking at. Very good article. You guys should check it out on the Redskins Wire. Dujunnea is always putting out good content, along with Diane Cheeseburger and other folks on the Redskins Wire. So y'all make sure y'all give them a read. This one has 3 interesting folks on the that you think could help this team. I'll let you go ahead and break down those 3 players that you highlighted in this great article you wrote.
I know a lot of people say that Noel is not a sleeper, but unless, again, Redskins fans are a lot smarter than most, so that's not any slight to any other fan. But, the content we have to put out and what we try to put out is a well-rounded basis, and we're assuming that everyone doesn't know everything and doesn't do the research that some of these Redskins fans do, and that's greatly appreciated, definitely, when you're able to talk to intelligent fans. But Andrew Noel is a guy who is a top-rated guy. Most people look at him as a guy that really could be one of the top guards that come out of this free agency. And we know with Sean Laval, he is a unrestricted free agent. You and I at length about Sean Laval. I believe that it is best for them to part. He's 30 years old. He has been very inconsistent in both the run and passing game, and whether you want to call it the lack of commitment or why the offensive line is not 100% when it comes to running the football, that could be part of it, but I also see a lot of things with Sean Laval on that left side not giving the same amount of intensity and consistency that his counterpart, Pro Bowler Trent Williams, is giving. So therefore, they do have a lot of guys that are going to be coming, hopefully will be coming back. Tyler Catalina is a left guard who is, he's not an unrestricted free agent, so he won't be able to test the market. They have him coming back. They have some guys on that roster that can play, but man, what a awesome play it would be to get a guy of his stature. He's young, 26 years old, and he's played for mobile quarterbacks, hence now with Alex Smith coming here, a guy who likes to move the pocket, would be awesome and has done an excellent job in the run game, especially whether it's Cam or any of their running backs, has done an excellent job. We talked about corner, and that's been talked about ad nauseum here over the last couple weeks, losing Kendall Fuller, and rightfully so. The guy had an excellent year last year, and again, we were all very surprised at his improvement, being that most talking heads and fans are ready to call the guy a bust. But in order to get something, you have to give something. So they had to let him go. And another guy that I saw out there who is probably more of a true sleeper to most knowledgeable fans is E.J. Gaines. I'm not sure if anyone had an opportunity to see or watch a lot of Bills games, but his season, he had 59 tackles. You're talking about 3 forced fumbles, 9 passes defended. The very, the thing that really comes to mind here is that his durability is not as good. It's been a little bit of an issue over the past couple of years, and has only, he's yet to play a 16-game season. So, those things are always in question. Now, where you would use him, you could use him at that nickel corner. He can play outside as well, but you have to be concerned about the health there. I also talked about Kyle Fuller. What an irony, right? Go trade one brother and get the other brother. I had a couple questions on different forums asking about whether Fuller, Kyle that is, would be reluctant to come to Washington because what was done to his brother. And I'll just say this. When it comes down to stuff like that, yeah, he wasn't notified, and at least as to what was going to happen to him. He found out at the last minute, but this is also a business, ladies and gentlemen, and we really don't know what was going on in those as far as the negotiations were concerned for Alex Smith. You can call it what you wanted. The Redskins were desperate to have a quarterback that can be here, so they do not go into free agency as taking up a lot of time searching for a quarterback. That opportunity was there, and several teams were in that market for Alex Smith, one namely the Cleveland Browns, who offered a heck of a lot more for him, for Alex Smith. So with that being said, things have to go down and decisions have to be made sometimes expediently. And when that happens, sometimes people aren't notified right away. And I'm sure Fuller understands that this is a business. With him being 26 years old, he had a great season last season, and he's really had a pretty decent season considering that defense of Chicago Bears hasn't been that great. And he's on the up and up. Young guy again, a guy that isn't afraid to get in, mix it up with different guys and different big-time wide receivers. And you look at what he's done, he's put up the numbers. And when people, he's only allowed 61 catches for 731. That's pretty impressive for a guy on a team that the defense really wasn't what it used to be. And offensively, they were, running back situation. There's some guys out there. I know a lot of people were laughing at the Orleans Starkwa talk, but if you look, I don't think anybody was laughing when he murdered the Redskins in that late season matchup there. Nobody was laughing then. If you look at the tape on the guy, when he's had the opportunity, he's run the ball very strong, and he can run between the tackles. He can bounce it outside. He has very good sight as far as rushing the football and seeing his vision of the field. Me personally, those things are three guys that with Hyde and Crowell. But I would like to see them draft a running back, and I'd like to see them focus in the draft, especially on beefing up the defensive line and offensive line, getting a little bit more depth, because if you take a look, this Redskins offensive line has about 3 or 4 guys that are starters that are coming off of surgery. So they need to get back to plug and play guys, and not have this tremendous drop off when you plug guys in, because guys get injured. And I think we can look back to years past with the Redskins. They've been able to do it before, and they have to get back to that. So we need to get talent along those 2 lines. If you build the lines, the rest of it will fall into place.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, you definitely touched on some of the points. Some of the folks on Facebook Live been chiming in. Had someone mention, Julius mentioned Carlos Hyde. You touched on who you would like to see us draft someone. I'm still good with, Rob Kelly, going out there. I like some RJP Ryan. I just wish Gruden would have fed him the ball more. We do need that home run hitter, even though you still have Chris Thompson. But with a quarterback like Alex Smith, the more weapons, the better, especially the way, he loves to, like you say, move the pocket and hit the running backs out of the backfield. Hopefully Jay will cater that to his strengths. That's still the question mark. We also had some folks mention, I don't follow college, so I'm going to just throw these names out there. Minka Fitzpatrick from Alabama and Tremaine Johnson. They said that they might be available at 13, and also a middle linebacker, Julius mentioned. A middle linebacker from Virginia Tech is a monster. I'm not, like I said, you're the college guy. I'll let you give me the expertise. So what about those 2 guys that were just mentioned?
Yes, those are all three. All three are good guys there. When you look at the running back position, I think that that's a really good pick, because I've said time and time again that at times we have a tendency to look at the top 3 and 4 guys, and we don't take the time to really get down in the depths of and really look for talented guys, hungry guys that want to play. That guy is a guy that can hit the hole very hard, as you know. They had a dual threat quarterback there in Alabama. The guy can bounce in and outside, and I think would be a good pick. I don't know about at 13 though. I'm really leaning towards, if you're going to pick a guy at 13, and we've seen this over and over again. You can look at Hunt early. You look at just lost his name. Leonard Fournette for the Jaguars. When guys, Ezekiel Elliott, when you draft guys that are known commodities, especially at the running back position, and I understand where the Sports on the Hill podcast fans are coming from, but when you do that, and they're clear home run hitters, you've seen what they did, those type of running backs do for a football team. And I'm with you, Carol. It's not a knock against P. Ryan at all. I really do like P. Ryan a lot. What I'd like to see from him in year 2 is to be able to get yards after contact. It's too many times that you get in the hole and the hole is open, and somehow a grass blade, someone's fingernail pops off and hits him in the shoe, and he falls down for what could have been an 8, maybe 9-yard gain, possibly 10. He usually gets 2 or 3 because of, little ticky-tack shoestring tackles that he's got to learn to break through to get those extra yards. But I think, as we saw in a couple of games, especially we talked about that during the season with their 3 tight end sets, when they got the running game going, going, and they were able to use those sets in times when he had to start. He got stronger as the game went on. So I think you have to continue to feed him. But there's no knock on P-Ryan. But I just think they need a guy that, like a Fournette, like a Kareem Hunt, that can hit the home run. We know what Chris Thompson is about. He's he's your Swiss Army knife, so to speak. He can do a little bit of everything. He not only run the ball outside, he can catch outside, he can be placed outside, slot, or 1-2. He can be anywhere on the football field. He's your versatile Swiss Army knife. So you need a home run hitter there, and I think that would be helpful for this football team. What were the others that were mentioned? I kind of forgot those.
Well, they were mentioning more. It's someone Corey mentioned the DB, Saran Neal from Jacksonville State, and let me see.
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about him while I scroll up and find the other guy he was mentioning.
Hill, and I think there was another guy from somebody said something, but Hill is another guy that is big, played in, you might say, oh, well, you look at the school that he comes from and, may not be very talented. But if you watch a lot of Jacksonville State games, those guys played well on both sides of the ball. They're hitters. As a matter of fact, I watched that team just because I have a former band director that graduated from there, so I pay attention to them a lot. And again, you guys are bringing out players that aren't the guys that are flashing at the top of the board, but are guys that are going to come in, fight for a position, be hungry, and be able to make plays that, maybe these other guys that you pick at the top aren't necessarily because, as Brian Mitchell said, they were babied and never had faced any adversity. When they face a little adversity, they tend to cower down. And I think that's what this team needs to stay away from. Now, obviously, there are guys at the top of that, board that are just monsters and are hungry. But there are some that have been coddled a bit and haven't had any kind of adversity. And when that happens, you end up finding these guys that end up, when they do face adversity, they tend to fold up like a lawn chair. And the Redskins can't afford to have any more of those types of players on this roster.
No doubt. There was also a player mentioned, middle linebacker from Virginia Tech.
Oh, that's what you were talking about. Now, Tech has a lot. What was his name?
He doesn't mention his name. I'm not a college guy, but he just says middle linebacker.
There are a lot of good players that are going to be that are on that team as well. I thought they had a really good season, and I will do some more research on that, and maybe we'll bring that up in the next article as well. But there, the fans are touching on a lot of different talented guys, and that shows they pay attention. And also, that's the type of stuff that I really like to promote. Is not so much looking at the guys that are flashing at the top, and that's why I enjoy the Senior Bowl a lot, because not all of those guys are top-notch guys. Now, this year, they managed to have a few heavy hitters at the Senior Bowl, but those guys are there to help themselves move up the draft board, and we saw a lot of guys last year who would have probably been picked, who were scouted to be picked third and fourth round, were able to move into the first round. Some were able to move in the first round. Some were able to move into the second and third round. So, those are the guys you want to get, and those guys are what makes your rosters fill out. And the Redskins have a lot of those guys on this roster as well. Of course, a lot of injuries to a lot of key players, but when you look at it, if you step back and look at it truthfully, Redskins have a lot of talent in depth on their defense, especially, and they just have to plug in some more heavy hitters, some more big pieces, and that can be game changers and gel as a team, because that's where it's going to be. Individuals are great, but they can't win your ball it's going to be really interesting to see where they go. But I really am a guy that really feels the need to build the line. If you build the line, that's going to make a difference in this football team.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, I wanted this to be more of an NFL free agency, but with all the folks chiming in about Redskins free agency, I guess we can cover a little bit more before we get into the NFL free agency. The player they were mentioning from Virginia Tech was Tremaine Edmonds, and Corey also mentioned Tim Settle, a nose tackle from out of Virginia Tech also. Those sound like some, like you say, Virginia Tech is a good defensive school. We definitely need a nose tackle, and depending on the situation with the linebackers, with Zach Brown, we all want him to come back. I know I want him to come back, but you always have to keep preparing for the future. So break down those two guys before we get into NFL free agency, since we had all these great Redskins questions.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that really quickly. Yeah, very good. Edmonds is a beast. You're talking about a 6'5" guy, 250. I mean, you're talking about a linebacker that can get busy, and he is very strong. He attacks very well. He's very quick. Doesn't allow himself to get bottled up in the riffraff, and makes solid tackles, and he can guard tight ends, and that's very important when you're looking at a linebacker or any linebacker, especially in this league now, where your tight ends are big and versatile, and basically like basketball players on the football field. You have to have linebackers that are just as athletic and can hang. Now, all this talk. With the free agency talk, I tell you, when you talk about the Redskins and Zach Brown, I like to see that. Jets are searching for a quarterback. You got Nick Foles out there, who's possibly, and I don't know if he's going to be available, and I think that's all going to be contingent on whether Carson Wentz is healthy enough to start week 1. They're going to make sure they have a guy on the roster that can play. But there are a lot of teams clamoring for a quarterback. So we're going to see how that goes. Now, what did you mention there, Carol? I'm sorry. I get off and forget about what you were saying.
It was also Tim Settle, nose tackle from out of Virginia Tech.
Yes. That's one thing about this draft. You don't have to pick the top guy at nose tackle. We know what this team has been about as far as nose tackle. It's been a dire need for a long time. They need to address that. And he is a guy that is physical, can clog up the middle, can collapse the pocket, and allow guys to make plays. And that's what a nose tackle is there for. It's not going to show up on a stat sheet with his sacks, but when you got guys around him getting sacks, making tackles, and getting after the quarterback, that's partly because of that guy being in the middle, collapsing that pocket, and being able to allow his teammates to come in there and clean up. And he's the guy that can do that. He's definitely a clogger, a run clogger, especially something that's been missing a little bit with this Redskins team, especially in between the tackles there. Guys like Zach Brown have been, and Mason Foster having to play cleanup because we don't have that. It's not a big enough guy there that can consistently clog that middle and be a force in the center of that defense.
No doubt. Now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go into the NFL free agency, but be sure to tune in. We will be doing a Facebook Live coming up with when free agency is close, and me and Dujunnea will break down the free agency prospects for the Redskins and for the league as all. Appreciate all of y'all chiming in with your questions, but now we want to get into a little bit of NFL free agencies. I know Dujunnea has been doing a lot of research on the free agent market that's going to be upcoming soon. So I guess we can go offense. What are yours, since the Alex Smith is taken off the market and Kirk Cousins, future is uncertain. So I know that he's one of the top offensive players that's going to be on the market. But what other offensive guys that really piqued your interest on that's going to be on the market this year, and then we can break down defense after that.
I'm going to talk about. You have quarterback from the Colts. He's 28. Rashawn Melvin. A guy who's played pretty well. He doesn't have that much of he's only played like, he's 28. He continues to play well. He's not like your top tier, but he can help your defense out. And that's what you want when you're trying to look at players. Tremaine Johnson of the Rams is a free agent, 28 years old. He's had a pretty good season, especially last year. And he's, a talented guy out there. Sammy Watkins, and we've talked about him before. My concern with him is his injury history. I'm not really a guy that would want him over in Washington, but he is definitely a guy that will be sought after. His height, his ability to go up and catch the ball. And if he stays healthy, he has made some plays, and he has made some big plays over there with the Los Angeles Rams. Maybe Navarro Bowman. He's 30 years old, and he's had a rough injury previously with the 49ers, but the guy can play. If you're not looking for a guy that's going to start, but it's going to come in and give you minutes like a Junior Gillette, he can be a guy that can come in and really give you something. And I think, I really think that Drew Brees gets re-signed, but he is a free agent. So, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get the numbers done. Saints have done even when I covered them 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, their cap has been terrible. And it's going to be interesting to see how they work this out, because they're a team that still has to build, especially defensively, on the line, the front seven. They still need to get talent, although they really played well down the stretch. There's some things they can improve there, but they have to keep Drew Brees. I think they will. It's just going to be interesting to see how the contract works out. And we've talked about Kirk Cousins in his uncertain future. I really believe that Denver is the spot. I think the Jets are probably the next in line. I really think the Browns are a long shot. But again, this guy, and I don't want to knock him too much, but he can't deny that it's been a little bit of double talk from him. And so we'll see on where he goes, and if he's about winning, he's going to get the contract, that's for sure. I mean, if Jimmy G can get $137 million, he's going to get his. But the difference is Jimmy G's got a ring. I know he wasn't a guy playing in the game, but definitely assisted in some of those. So we're going to see what happens, but I think Denver is the place. And I think if you go to the wire, you'll see that there's an article about Kirk and them just washing their hands of him and not doing this franchise tag thing. I'll be interested to see, though, if there's a grievance filed. If Denver is the spot for them basically seeking his services since the game or before the game that he had against the Denver Broncos. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I wouldn't count the Jets out of this. They definitely need a quarterback, and they're not a horrible team by any means. But he's about winning. He would if I'm Kirk and I'm about winning, I go to a place that's set for winning, has a lot of talented guys, has a good running game with C.J. Anderson, has wide receivers, and has a nasty defense, and has been proven to do that. So that's just me. But we're going to see how it all pans out when the smoke is cleared and the free agency bell is rung. And speaking of bells, Le'Veon Bell is a free agent, and talked about that a little bit in that article about the running backs, and I don't see him leaving Pittsburgh. It would be nice for anybody to get him. We'll see. I'm sure they'll work it out. They don't want to see a guy like that get away from him, especially as a viable part of that offense that he has been. He's an elite
They're gonna franchise that man. They're not letting that man get out of there. He's too.
I don't see it either.
Yeah, he's too valuable of a piece to their offense, especially with Ben getting older and his uncertainty about how soon he's gonna be retiring. They can't let him go because at least they can build around him and find a quarterback that they can at least hand off the ball and throw him wheel routes out the backfield and let him do his thing.
Right. Now, this is funny because with this quarterback situation, even though Alex Smith is gone, the waters are still muddy because Case Keenum is available. He's played himself into a contract. Again, we talked about the Eagles and Nick Foles. We're going to see how that works out, what Carson Wentz's health situation is. They definitely don't want to drop off. I think most feel that they could definitely get back into the playoffs and have a very good shot, being that they will retain most, if not very good portion of their entire team. So he's out there, Kirk's out there. Again, if as we speak about Bell and that issue, I don't think they let Drew Brees slip away from New Orleans, and I don't think he wants to leave New Orleans. He has a lot of history there, but money talks, and we know how some players get when they feel like they've been disrespected. So he's out there. Teddy Bridgewater is out there. Again, questions about his knee in the recovery. We're going to see how he comes along, but I think Teddy needs to go to a place that he can sit for a little bit and kind of work his way back into things. But the last thing you want to do is go out there and have another injury because, his leg almost fell off. The way the story is told, it just imploded for no reason at all. So definitely want to be cautious with that. And Sam Bradford, all three of those quarterbacks over there are available. So, and all three of those quarterbacks have shown that they can make plays. Before Bradford, a.k.a. Glass Joe, went down, he was quite nasty and doing an excellent job. But again, the guy can't stay healthy, hence the name Glass Joe. So that the quarterback, free agency market is really muddy. It's really muddy, and it's a question of how much you want to spend, and who you want, who you feel that meets the criteria for your offense. So, and guys have played themselves right into contracts. So we're going to see that in itself, just the quarterback play is going to be very, very interesting to see how that all plays out, who stays and who goes and who sits down. But as of right now, one is already taken off the market, and that's Alex Smith, who is jacked to be with the Washington Redskins.
No doubt. I still got Kirk going to Jacksonville. I think that no state income tax is going to play a key in it for him being the highest paid player ever. He's that egomaniac dude. I just think he wants to have that title of highest paid player, and the fact that he'd be able to walk away with about 10% more of his money will be like the feather in his cap for him to say, a big F you to the Redskins organization. I got my money, and I'm going to a team that's, already has a defense, has a running game, and is going to stick to the running game and let me be me and not have some egotistical AFL ex-coach wants to do things his way. So I think he's still going to go to Jacksonville.
I can see that.
Yeah, I see it. I've been calling it for a while.
That is an option for sure.
Yeah, I kind of see it. It makes sense. Yeah, it kind of makes sense because that AFC South is up and down and kind of inconsistent, and he have almost a walk to the AFC Championship game. With Ben get ready to retire, with Brady being 40, 41. He's about to have. He got a defense that's young, that's feisty. He got a young rookie running back, offensive line that can get better, and a team that has $65 million under the cap to spend, depending on how much they spend on him. So why not?
True. They are a team that is definitely that's probably a wild card for sure. It's probably more than a wild card because that's not a pipe dream. They're not one of those teams that are clamoring for cap space, and they know what they need, and they saw themselves last year losing. And granted, it wasn't Blake Bortles' fault, but could you imagine if they had a Kirk Cousins in that situation? Maybe part in the money. So nobody can really say anything about that. But yeah, if you go to Cleveland, or I would even say the Jets, in my opinion, I'd let somebody else take that job. But if you're not going to Denver or Jacksonville, I don't know if you can say that it was about winning with you, and it wasn't about the money. So yeah, good take on that, because that is a definite possibility, despite what Jacksonville says about them staying with Blake Bortles. If a guy's available that's better than the guy you got, I think you kind of have to go with that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, because I noticed the timing of the owner coming out. That was right before the big game. And even though it wasn't on Blake Bortles, he can spin it that way to still get Kurt in there. And he's been one of the owners that, has been shiesty on him, keeping his wallet closed for so long, that this would be the perfect time for him to say, look, I'm going to make him the richest quarterback in NFL history, so y'all see that I'm trying to help this team win. When he came out and made that statement, I looked at it as a PR move, and not saying that that's where Kurt's going to end up, but I saw it playing out that way, because it only makes sense. And for Kurt's ego and the way that he wants to be loved in the door by fans, they haven't had a decent quarterback since Mark Brunell took them to the AFC Championship game 2-3 years back to back. So they would love that man. And they was so in love with Tim Tebow, and he ain't never did a damn thing. So they had loved Kurt down there. He would love that, get the income tax money, wear the staple of the highest paid player ever in the NFL. It just seems it just goes hand in hand in my mind. But we're going to wait and see. And you best believe, if it happens, you will see a Facebook Live from CP3 telling all of y'all, I told you so. You know you're going to see it. You know you got to. But we wasn't planning to go 2 hours, honestly, Dujunnea, but I appreciate everybody tuning in with the questions. I know you got some more research and articles to do. It's about 8:50. I'm hungry. I've been drinking, and I've been working all day. So we're going to go ahead and end this thing up a little early. I appreciate you as always coming on. And like I told folks, stay tuned for a Facebook Live breaking down free agency, Redskins style, and NFL coming soon. He's a busy man, like he said, the Senior Bowl, prepping everything, getting ready for the college. So y'all stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more boxing coverage. I appreciate all the love on that. DC Sports Out of Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, as always. Dujunnea, what articles you got coming up anytime soon? Or you just doing more research right now?
Oh, just stay tuned. We're going to have a take on Alex Smith and his 5 moments in his career. It was hard to narrow that down, because he's had a lot of moments in his career, despite the allegations of him being checked down Charlie. This guy has made plays, and more deep balls have been thrown than people realize. You listen to a lot of talking heads that think that this guy is just a check down queen. That's not the case. And so we're going to have that. We'll have something later on coming up right before the combine, talking about 3 guys to take a look at, and we'll have more of those. But we have one already in the chamber about talking about guys that the Redskins should look at while at the combine, and we'll have more of that stuff, more free agency, more combine talk, and just right up into the draft, we're going to be full steam ahead.
No doubt. I'm going to go ahead and end this Facebook Live feed right here. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Check us next week for more coverage of any and everything DC sports related.